Hi, everybody. Um, I told you I was going to update you on my thoughts as it pertains to reparations as they came to me, and I just came up with another idea. But rather than just doing an original video, I'm just going to respond to the amazing Lucas. By the way, this live stream is not monetized. This is not for commercial purposes, so it's fair use. I'm not trying to steal anybody's content. The reason why I prefer to do a response is so that I'm addressing other people's concerns because, yeah, I can sit up here and spew my own thoughts on it, but this is what other people are thinking. So I'm going to respond to what he's saying so that you guys can actually get a better understanding of why this issue is not moving forward. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started.
I don't see it happening in my lifetime. Oh my goodness. So before you lose your mind, let me just say I am in support of reparations, 100%. I don't believe that it's a handout like many people claim, that it's very much a debt that is owed. It is owed to a specific group of people, not everyone, okay, but Black Americans who are descendants of chattel slavery in this country, in the US. In addition to as far as the other laws and injustices that have befallen us, whether it's, Jim Crow, whether it's convict leasing, litany of things that has happened to us in this country. Having said that, even though I'm in favor of it, I don't see it happening, as I said in the intro, in my lifetime. Now, this is unfortunately a sentiment that has been echoed from, past generations where they're like, hey, I agree, but I don't see it happening in my lifetime.
I mean, it's not going to happen because it's not being presented in a correct manner. I've been trying to tell people, but like I said, I'm tweaking my ideas on this issue. That I think that Black Americans are in a unique position because we don't have sovereignty. And so I'm going to explain that in a minute.
And I'm going to tell you the main two factors of why I don't see it happening in my lifetime, or if ever at all, if this isn't changed. First factor I would argue is that there's no political weight. And what I mean by that is that in order for anything to happen, there has to be a reason for it to happen, right? Anything, any type of bill, any type of legislation, there has to be a passion behind there. There has to be a group of people who are pushing this forward. That is not happening. When it comes to the DNC has not officially endorsed.
Okay, so here's where we have a problem, because he's correct that there has to be political weight, but then he jumps automatically to the DNC and what's going on internally. No, that's not where the political weight is going to come from. Now, I told y'all before that you can't get reparations without sovereignty. I just figured out there's another way to get reparations without us actually having sovereignty. Now, in the past, everyone who has gotten reparations, they all had sovereign nations, right? So based on a social contract, I was thinking, well, we can't get it without sovereignty either. No, that would be the best way to get it, would be to get sovereignty first, because unless you have sovereignty, you can't make a demand. The demand has to come from a sovereign, meaning you have to have the power to declare war, to compete against America economically, or to trade with America economically. Like, there has to be some type of benefit that before I go forward, I want to show y'all something, because he's about to get into these other groups that got reparations, and I want to show y'all why what America got out of it. It's not the purpose of reparations. It's not charity, right? And the way that is being presented right now is that it's charity. You should just do it because I don't know, Blacks have been done wrong in the past. No, Americans are never going to buy into it when you present it that way. It has to be something that is beneficial to America going forward. So let me show y'all what these other groups got out of it. Here's the State Department, U.S. relations with Japan. This is not charity. They're doing it. They're not altruists. They're doing this for their own benefit, for the benefit of the sovereign. I want y'all to keep this in mind, because the American people are not sovereign. The The government is the sovereign. They don't represent the American people. So I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to explain. I want to break this down really well. This is what America got out of giving reparations. They're giving it to the Japanese Americans, but it's in order to establish goodwill with Japan. So Japan provides bases as well as financial and material support to U.S. for deployed forces, which are essential for maintaining stability in the region. In January of 2016, the United States and Japan signed a new 5-year package of host nation support for forces in Japan. And then let's get into the trade. The United States and Japan cooperate on a broad range of global issues, including development of assistance, global health, environmental and resource protection, and women's empowerment. We collaborate broadly in science and technology in areas such as brain science, aging, infectious disease, personalized medicine, and eternal space exploration. I'm not going to go through all of this. Let me just read one. The United States consults with Japan and the Republic of Korea on policy regarding North Korea. So the point that I'm trying to make is that America got something out of it. You can't get reparation. The point of reparation is to establish goodwill. Now let's go to Israel. Let's go to Israel. Did I? Okay, here we go. Again, this is the State Department. The U.S.-Israel bilateral relationship is strong, anchored by over $3 billion in foreign military financing annually. In addition to financial support, the U.S. participates in a high level of exchanges with Israel to include joint military exercises, military research, and weapons development. I'm going to skip through that. The top 5 U.S. imports from Israel are diamonds, pharmaceutical products, machinery, optic, and medical instruments, and agricultural products. Y'all can go back to the State Department and read through all of this if y'all want to, but America got something. America is getting something out of giving reparations to Israel. Now, when it comes to Native Americans, that is actually done by the U.S. Department of Interior. So, the Native American business support. This one isn't as clear cut as the others. The economies of Indian country in many ways mirror the larger economy. Tribally owned enterprises and individual entrepreneurs are industry leaders in a wide variety of sectors, including manufacturing, hospitality, tourism, farming, ranching, processing, technology, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go through all that. All these other things. This is trade. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, Office of Indian Economic Development provides technical assistance, training, funding to assist tribes and tribal members with starting and sustaining their businesses, bringing ideas to the marketplace, and taking advantage of government and private procurement opportunities. There was a specific. Okay, here the grants within OIED, the Division of Economic Development administers competitive grants to support Native American entrepreneurs, broadband deployment, business development, feasibility studies. I'm not going to go through all this, but they help tribes to determine whether a project is worth pursuing. The main thing is tribal tourism grants. They get a lot of money for tourism. Indian business incubators programs. Okay, I'm not going to go through this, but I want y'all to understand that America is getting something out of giving reparations to all these groups. You don't get reparations just out of guilt or because you just want to be a do-gooder. It's not altruistic. They're getting something out of. Now, let me go back. No comments? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and keep going with this because the reason why they're not going to get reparations is because they're not presenting it right. Like this is capitalism. You have to have a business, a prospectus. You have to come to them with a business idea on how this is going to benefit Americans. Now, when it comes to the political weight, it doesn't have to come internally. What Black Americans would need to do, like I said, the demand for reparations has to come from a sovereign. Now, I previously said that we can't get reparations without sovereignty. No, there's another way to do this. What Black Americans would need to do is go to the African Union, get a bunch of African countries to sign on to it. But at the same time, those African countries are going to want something out of it too. They're going to want something in return for supporting it. And then if you get a bunch of African countries to make a demand and they can present what America is getting out of it, then that's going to move the needle. But doing this internally and trying to struggle and trying to work within this majoritarian system, that's not going to do anything. The majority is never going to support reparations. There's more that I want to say about this, but I want to go forward with his video so that I can respond to it as he actually says it. Not true. It's about the way that is being presented. You can convince Republicans to buy into also if it is in our interest. And even when it comes to Israel, they support Israel because they're getting something out of it. Israel does America's dirty work. That's what they're there for. They're there to protect the oil, to keep what you call it, a Western influence over in that region. It's not charity. That's the part that I'm not going to say him. Though the proponents of reparations are not getting that. You have to say how is this benefiting America? And basically, I told y'all about manufactured consent. So you basically have to have two stories. There's a story that you give to the sovereign, what is in their best interest, but then you also need to have a propaganda machine that you use to sell to the American people. And I'm sorry, y'all, it is what it is. This is the way legislation gets passed. Everything is done through manufactured consent. The American people are not going to be told the truth. And you may think that that's ugly or that's dishonest. It just is what it is. This is the way legislation gets passed. So if you're not willing to go dirty and engage in a propaganda machine, then you're just never going to get reparations.
She's the only one that brought out a bill to study as far as reparations. But at the end of the day, it's just not a very popular sentiment. It's not a popular sentiment. If you,
it doesn't matter if it's popular because the American people are not sovereign. I'm trying to tell y'all, the government does not represent the interests of the American people. Yeah, you can convince them to buy into it, but you're going to have to lie and manipulate them, and that's just the way it has to be.
Look at as far as whites, you look at Asians, you look at as far as Latinos. That's not a something that's high on their list, high on their priority list. And if you take that into account as far as what Dr. Claude Anderson said that, hey, if you're a majority minority and you're not getting anything, what makes you think you're gonna get something when you're a minority? Okay.
And that's the reason why you need sovereignty. Even though you're only 13%, if you had sovereign land, then these migrants would not be a threat to you. But when you are a minority and you don't have sovereignty, then those migrants are going to displace you. But they're not just going to displace blacks. They're going to eventually displace whites also. So now would be the opportunity. I mean, this should have been done a long time ago. Abraham Lincoln did not want the slaves to be integrated into American society. His plan was to give us sovereign land. And I guess the South, well, it wasn't just the South. A lot of people wanted to keep us here so they could continue exploiting us for cheap labor. So um, you can say that it's racist, that it's segregation. No, that's Abraham Lincoln did not think that it would be in our best interest to be integrated into American society. So, um, it, okay, with the white majority, we're actually in a better place than we are with a migrant majority, because the migrants don't have any compassion or regard for slavery. I mean, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the current majority. They're going to say, "Oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't my ancestors. Whatever. I'm from Ireland or whatever." No, but they can at least intellectually understand what the case is. But those migrants, no, they're so far removed from it. It's going to go completely over their heads.
Okay, when you're a super minority, you're really not going to get anything. And that, unfortunately, as he's shown to be the case, because if you have all these groups who are not favorable to reparations for Black Americans, then what is the political process? What is the means to make that so? There isn't any. That's the.
Yes, there is. It's called manufactured consent. You need to have a well-funded propaganda machine. You need to run a whole bunch of movies about slavery. You need to push that in education. You need to keep that at the forefront of their minds, just like other groups have done.
Thing. There isn't any, because in this country, a republic, democracy, that's how that's going to have to go. No, as far as one representative or no Democrat or Republican, if you want to live in La La Land, is going to come forward and risk their career on the line for a group of people that make up of less than 13% of the population, and even less when it comes to voting. What I find.
But it's not just about the 13% of Black Americans who are currently here. You need to align yourself with Africans. You need to resort to Pan-Africanism. That's the way you get it. You get external pressure to be put on the American government, and that's going to move the needle. I'm not sure why nobody's explaining this. Like, go back and read the social contract that when you are a subject, you don't have any bargaining power. The demand has to come from a sovereign, and it doesn't necessarily have to be us, but it can be African nations, or it can be other nations. It can be Israel or whatever. But any nation that supports that is going to want something out of it.
Truly fascinating is that I would think that if it was up to me, I would go and knock on the doors of the Japanese. Y'all got reparations. Why aren't Japanese speaking out, in unity with Black Americans for reparations?
Because it's not in their best interest, and reparations are not supposed to be charity. It's for you to present a perspective of why it is in their rational self-interest to support it. It's not for their people. So you need to establish some type of trade agreement with the Japanese and present to them what their cut is going to be. Otherwise, they're not going to support it.
Another group of people, Jews. Why aren't Jewish people using their businesses and the mediums that they've amassed over generations and generations, thanks to many cases, thanks to Black Americans? Why aren't they using their power to speak out in favor of reparations for Black?
Because it's not in their rational self-interest. You need to tell them how they're going to benefit from it. I'm not sure. I mean, I think we live in Ayn Rand explained it. Like, we live in an altruistic country where you're basically taught to sacrifice, like being a sacrificial animal is considered noble. No, that's the narrative that they tell us. They tell us that it's better to give than it is to receive. That's not how other people think. Other people want to receive more than they give. So it's give and take. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You need to come up with a business plan. What can Black Americans provide to these other groups? Every other group has some type of product or business, like, Asians with their, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but they have their businesses that they do. We all know what they are. I already told y'all what Israel's businesses are. They export certain things. and they're in America, they're in social services. So really, the Black community does not have any niche when it comes to the economy. We're just kind of floating around. No, we need to carve out a niche that we do, and then we need to present that. How can we benefit other groups? I mean, that entails a lot of leadership, and we just don't have that. So, man, this latest, the way that they're doing it right now is so fucking ass backwards. They just think that everybody's just going to be kind and just do what's right and be fair. That's not how people think. This is a capitalistic nation. That's just how things work. And it's Mayhew. If you get into political science, Mayhew talks about greasing the wheel. How he talks about sausages being made. That what the story that the American people are given is not what goes on behind the scenes. Even when you look at legislation, there's a lot of pork in it, right? Because not every, but most of these legislatures, you can't just pass a law based on what is beneficial to the country. No, they tack on all this pork because they want their cut. They want something that is beneficial specifically to their state, so that specific legislature can go back and tell their people, hey, I got you these highways. I got you these new schools. I got you money for your grants, right? That's how you grease the wheel. That's how sausage is made. I mean, it's complicated, but you have to have people who are experts in this arena who are willing to put in the work. Just saying, oh, I deserve reparations because my ancestors were slaves. No, that's going to get you absolutely nothing.
Americans. I would be knocking on their doors. Heck, I'd be knocking on Native Americans. Okay, listen, y'all got your casinos, y'all got your reparations for the harm that was done, despite many of the Africans who were fighting during the Seminole Wars being excluded. You got that. Help us and advocate for us to get ours as well. And those are three groups that are completely silent as Black Americans are chanting for reparations. I don't see that to be favorable in getting them. The next thing, and the biggest thing I would say, is that many Black people are politically ignorant. And what I mean by that is that you'll have many of these hustlers, these grifters, these YouTubian scholars who will constantly pump hope into the veins of the Black community, pump hope into the audience. Oh, well, reparations is going to happen, okay? It's only a matter of time before reparations happen, right? They'll have their rallies here and there. They'll have their conferences, reparations rally or a reparations conference. And at the end of the day, nothing will be done. Do you want to know why?
But who are they choosing to listen to, right? They listen to, and I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but y'all know who these hustlers are in the community who just basically exploit the community to get money for their own special projects. I mean, I know I need to work on my channel to make it more polished. I need to work on my presentation, all that stuff. And I don't have any political clout. Nobody's listening to my channel. But I try to tag people who have larger channels so that they can hear it and maybe they can repeat some of the things that I'm saying. I don't even give a shit if you take my ideas. I know nobody's going to listen to me. So if you're a larger content creator and you repeat my stuff, I don't care. You can take it. But they're not going to listen to it from somebody like me, even if I mean, a lot of times when I say this stuff, I'll come back with these articles and my sources. But when I actually do that, I lose people. So this is a social contract. This is how you get it. A case for reparations is made between two or more sovereigns. It's not made between sovereigns and subject. That's not how you get reparations. So I've been saying, and I think I'm probably the only one who's saying this on YouTube. Everyone else is just saying, oh, we deserve it. Go to your politician. No, you're not going to get reparations that way. You need to do it a different way. And the strategy that you're using right now is going to get you absolutely nothing.
Because they don't have any political understanding of how to get reparations done. The irony is that Sheila Jackson, who brought out a study to study as far as the effects of Black Americans in this country due to reparations, the harm that's been done, that was lambasted by many of these YouTubian scholars, these Black influencers, these hustlers, and these grifters. We don't need any study, is what they said. if they had any political IQ, they would understand that the people that they constantly want to use as a talking point, which is the Japanese, right? The Japanese got reparations. What they failed to understand is the Japanese also had a study done. that's what happened. The Japanese had a study done.
Right, and that's the manufactured consent. That's the story that you can sell to the American people. But behind that narrative, there's also what is America getting out of it. And I just told y'all what the American government got out of it. So that's something that the Black community has to work on. What can we offer to the government? Why would they want? Again, the purpose of reparations is to establish goodwill going forward. So if you're trying to repair, I mean, I talked to y'all when I read about John Locke about his reparations is to repair past a past wrong and to establish goodwill going forward. There is no goodwill when you're a subject. What is America getting out of it? This is not complicated
to understand as far as the impact of the Japanese, what happened, and what was the redress for the atrocities that took place when it comes to Native Americans. Many of them had studies done. So I find it humorous when they speak so boldly their ignorance. And unfortunately, because of us as a collective, we're just as ignorant. We listen to these people. We look up to these people. And if you say anything negative about these people, well, then you're the problem, right?
But whose fault is that? Y'all look to a certain image of who can lead the Black community. And it's usually going to be a so-called masculine man with a deep voice. You're not even you're going to bypass the women altogether. There's going to be some rare exceptions, but when you look at who's actually leading the Black community, who are the hustlers that are taking all the money, it's usually going to be a bunch of men. And they're usually going to be heterosexual men. And because I don't need to use me as an example, but other people who don't have the right image, you're never going to listen. I don't have the right voice. I don't have the right image. But when it comes to the knowledge is there, I can go toe to toe with any of them. They're not, first of all, they're not even operating in good faith. They're selling you a bunch of goods, right? So trying to argue with them based on what's actually going to work, I don't think that that's even what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to get their cut before you get your cut. They're not even trying to really benefit the Black community. What they're trying to do is exploit an opportunity to, I don't know, gain wealth for themselves and clout for themselves. Right. And y'all, this is entertainment. They get on they go on the Breakfast Club and talk all this shit. And you listen to them and you think that they're so smart. They're not saying anything substantive. They can't tell you anything. Only thing they're going to do is regurgitate the same shit about what somebody else said about how we deserve it. Well, they're never going to tell you how to accomplish it. I don't know. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I don't hear anybody else saying what I'm saying. Like, there's a way to do it, and what's being done is completely wrong.
You're the problem. And that political ignorance is something that I would say is very much exclusive to the Black community.
No, it's not exclusive. Everybody is ignorant. The only difference, I think, within the white community and other groups, they have a small circle of politically astute group. People who basically operate on behalf of everybody else. But the masses as a whole, they're completely ignorant. They're just as ignorant as the Black community. They don't know what's going on. They don't know anything about political science or how to get legislation passed. There's a very small few who do, but the masses don't know anything.
Black collective. And I would argue that it's not magical. It didn't happen, magically happen. I would say that there's very much an effort put there. So,
well, let me just say this. There's a whole mystique behind statism that statism is just a form of mysticism that is not based on knowledge or intellect. It's based on faith, that you put your faith into the state. You leave it to these other people, this nebulous government entity who's supposed to be there for the common good. And so that's what you don't have to actually think because you trust these. It's no different than religion, that you put your faith into God, and basically the government is God, and so you don't have to do anything. You just sit back and basically pray to the state that they're going to do what's right. But it's anti-intellectual, and to actually sit back and understand how to get things done. This is boring. This is the reason why when I sit up here and talk about this, I'm not going to get a lot of views. If I were to go back and read from the social contract and tell y'all line for line how to get this stuff done, I'm going to probably get 5 people listening to that shit. So this is the reason why. I mean, most of these people are not political scientists. I mean, not to, I don't know that I'm like an expert on political science, but I do have a background in it. I do have a bachelor's degree in political science. My master's was in public affairs, and the law degree, which I don't think the law degree is necessarily helpful, but most of the stuff that I know about this are things that I read on my own. It's not based on what I learned through my education.
So when you have a group of people who are politically ignorant, you have other groups of people who are hostile to the idea of reparations, then what is the course for reparations? There is none. There just isn't.
There is manufactured consent for the masses, the ignorant masses that he's referring to, the low information voters. And then you need to have another narrative for the government. How does this benefit us? And you basically need to get all of your ducks lined up, because it's not their responsibility to make the case for reparations. It's the Black community's case responsibility to do that. And they need to partner up with African countries, or they need to get sovereignty for themselves. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep pushing that, because as these migrants keep coming into America, we're just going to become a declining minority. And y'all know I'm an anti-natalist, so I'm not about to have any Black children. So it is what it is. I don't necessarily care about breeding a child into hell in order to increase numbers. But for those who are in this for the long haul, who think that there's some type of rainbow at the end of the damn tunnel, it's going to be through Pan-Africanism. It's not going to be through just relying on Americans, Black American. No, you're going to need to have a bunch of Black immigrants, and you need to have business ties with them lined up. You need to have something. You need to have some incentive for them to come here. You need to have businesses so that when they come here, they already have a job and they can help you do what you're doing. You need to have leadership. Otherwise, even the African migrants are going to displace you, because they're going to come here with all the business prospects, and they're going to replace you, and they're going to tell you, oh, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I did it. You can do it, because you're not providing anything to them. They're basically dependent on a system, and you're not doing it. So they're going to defer to the system more than they defer to you, even though you look like them.
Something has got to give. Either these people become favorable to the idea, or we become politically active, and we raise our political IQ in order to help them become favorable.
It's not being politically active, it's being economically active, being economically competitive. That's the way you get it, or at least the potential to become economically competitive. You need to show to the sovereign how you can benefit them. Otherwise, it's a non-starter.
Because if all these people, whether it's whites, Asians, Latinos, are all viewing it as, hey, this is just a handout. Why don't I get reparations?
It is a handout the way that it's being presented. If there's not a benefit for the sovereign, it's a handout. You can turn it around to where it's not a handout, but it's not even being discussed. Nobody's presenting that. I don't know why people are so naive to think that people are just do-gooders and they just want to do what's right and what's fair. That's not the way most people think. Most people, and the way that the government thinks, is, how does this benefit me?
If that's how the media is spinning this, then you're going to lose as far as the support. And without support, it's not going to happen. There has to be something that these politicians can hang their coat on. And they can't hang it on if only 1% of the population is for it. It's just not going to happen. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order for reparations to come into it.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. Gosh, I wish I was invited to some of these panels so I could sit up here and explain some things and grade it. I mean, if I were invited on a panel, I probably would have more notes. I would have copious notes and really lay it out in a more organized manner. But this is me going off the cuff of of how I see the problem. Um, I don't know, and for those who say that I'm wrong, I would like for you to present me with an alternative, because what you're doing right now is not going anywhere. Y'all been talking about this shit ad nauseum. You're just chasing your damn tail. So, gosh, I don't expect anybody to listen to my channel. My channel is small. I don't have any clout, but at the end of the day, I know what I'm talking about. So, you can get everybody to support reparation. Not everybody. You can get the majority of Americans to support it. You just have to do it a different way, and you can also get the government to buy into it. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. If y'all have any questions, put them in the comment section, and so that way I can address them and maybe do more content on it. But I'm kind of coming up with these ideas as I go along, because I don't necessarily, nobody else is laying this out. So as I fine tune what needs to be done, I'm going to come and present it to y'all. So y'all have a good night.